Hello and welcome to the Holy Fool podcast. Holy Fool is a nonprofit based in Denver, Colorado, devoted to helping working musicians, especially musicians who struggle financially and are trying to figure out the mechanics of how to write songs, record songs, do music without it destroying their lives. We are today on the Holy Fool podcast joined by Connor and Isaac from Milwaukee's finest emo band, in my opinion, Barely Civil. Hello, Isaac. Hello, Connor. Thank you for joining us.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Yes, totally. Well, I like your band a lot. We've talked, Isaac, especially you and me, we've texted a bunch. We're buddies now. We've sent each other little live demos and like unreleased songs and stuff. So I like your band so much. And I especially want to praise your band in that you all do the exact thing that I want a rock band to do, which is the louds are really loud and the quiets are really quiet. But I love your heart on your sleeve acoustic songs. I love when everybody's yelly and shouty and riffy. So thank you for making music. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for being here.
Of course. Thank you so much. Yeah, the loud soft dynamic is it's crucial. It's crucial to our success.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about, we're kind of both in the DIY band world. We met originally through the internet, and now I've been able to see you live when you came through Denver with Mags. We have been buddies kind of in the same sort of echelon of my band, A Place for Owls, and yours, playing with a lot of the same, like you guys opened for Empire. It was a Lonely Estate.
Yeah.
So did we. You guys, it seems like the bands that go on tour through the Western states and the Midwest, I love when I see both of us as local openers on the same tour. It makes me feel like we've actually played a show together, but sadly, we've never played a show together. So, so tell me a little bit about your story with DIY music. How did you get into going to shows, playing guitar and drums or whatever, writing songs? Tell me that whole journey.
Yeah. So when we were growing up, we grew up in a small town called Wausau, Wisconsin. It's about 3 hours north of Milwaukee, which is where we're at right now. Wausau is a really, it's like a big, small town. You know what I mean? Like, it's got a lot of people, but it still feels very isolated and very on its own.
Yeah, like if you're in downtown and you drive 15 minutes in any direction, you're in a field somewhere.
Yeah,
love it.
And so growing up, we didn't really have access to shows, and we didn't really have access to seeing a lot of the bands that, especially when we got into high school, we really loved. And those were bands that were sort of forging their own path forward by doing the DIY thing and by figuring out how to make sustainable lives in a music industry without selling your soul to major record labels. And our sort of emergence into DIY kind of came out of necessity. When you're in a small town like Wausau, there is no option to not do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were booking shows with, other friends' bands in like town halls outside of Madison, Wisconsin. And we were booking at our local bowling alley, just trying to get anybody to come through. And for us, like Barely Civil, I mean, Isaac and I have known each other since we were 5.
Wow.
And we started playing music together when we were like 10.
Mm.
And so Barely Civil started when we were like 14, and it's somehow, some way managed to be the only thing that we've needed to do.
Yeah.
So we just sort of, we came from being teenagers who just wanted to play shows and had to do it ourselves to stepping into the world as adult musicians who enjoy doing it themselves.
Who was the instigator of like, I think I'm going to write songs and I think we're going to do original music? Because, a lot of people get bands together, play music, and they mostly played Sweet Home Alabama or whatever,
Oh, yeah. I mean, when we started, we were a Green Day cover band.
Yes.
That was what we played. We played Green Day. I started writing songs. I mean, I was writing songs when I was like a kid. They were terrible.
I do vividly remember a music class talent show where I had brought a children's djembe to class, and Connor was going to do a song that he wrote. And like, as he was coming up, he was like, "Hey, do you want to play drums on this?" And that was the first time that I think we like played music together.
Yeah. But I was writing music sort of on my own when from like starting at age 12. And then we were in this Green Day cover band. We were just playing, Green Day tunes, and we would venture out. We played some Jimmy Eat World.
Oh yeah, we played some
the
Jimmy.
middle. We played the middle.
Yeah.
But then at our practices, I just started going, "Hey, can I like try out this song? Can we see where it goes?" And then it sort of like for the start of the band, it was just about like having fun. And it still is about having fun. It has to be about having fun. But when we started jamming out original songs together, it was like, oh, we can actually start, I think, taking it a little bit more seriously and trying to figure out like what our sound is and what our songwriting style is. And I think especially as like young musicians, it's so easy to try and emulate the bands that you love. And you sort of need to go through that phase, right?
Yes.
You need to wear your influences on your sleeve. And we were just fortunate that duration of time was in Isaac's basement and not on like records going out into the world.
Yeah.
Because we were able to sort of like refine what our sound was. Yeah. I still think like to this day, I think it's easy to say and like to point at certain songs to say, oh, this is a band that listens to The World Is a Beautiful Place. And this is a band that listens to XYZ. And all of that is true. But I think we got comfortable just being ourselves and sort of wearing our each individual influences on our sleeve to make something that wasn't centralized around one influence or a handful of influences.
That's beautiful. I still
talking.
You talk pretty. Yeah, I love that. I think when I first started writing songs, it was very much like, here's my Jimmy Eat World ripoff, or here's my Death Cab for Cutie ripoff, or whatever. And you could absolutely 100% tell because I'm just lifting wholesale chord progressions and little snippets of melodies or whatever. And that you go through a strange journey, at least I have in our band, that like for a while you get a little bit paranoid about like being too obvious. And so maybe you like actually you say no to a guitar part that reminds you too strongly of one of your influences. But now I feel more free than I ever have to just straight, like I will communicate to Daniel, our lead guitarist, to be like, can you just pretend that you're Jimmy Eat World on Futures and just play a solo like that? And then he does, because that's, our favorite band and one of our favorite records of all time. Yeah, and he does something that reminds you of that. But like, because it's filtered through us and our experience, and also because I think I'm just a little less self-conscious at my age currently, that it feels a little bit more natural. Have you guys come around a little bit more to like being a little bit more obvious with your ripoffs?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I would say so.
I think like we had a moment with this exact experience when we were writing I'd Say I'm Not Fine. There was what we call the title track of the record, Not Fine, is this like acoustic track. And I wrote it because I was listening to Mansions, and I was like, oh, I want to learn Dig Up the Dead, learn that song. And then I was like, oh, this tuning is pretty and these chords are pretty. What if I just rearranged them and then wrote a song using them? And so that's what I like, when we demoed that song, we were just calling it like the Mansion song.
Yes, that's amazing. I love it. Well, more power to you. I think the more free and the less self-conscious you get, the more you actually, there's this C.S. Lewis quote where he says, anyone strives for originality actually fails wholesale anyways. But if you just focus on telling the truth and don't, I'm paraphrasing, this is not C.S. Lewis verbiage, but he says if you just tell the truth and you don't give a rip for if it's been said before 100 times, but you're just telling the truth, you will end up being original in the end because you're speaking exactly what is closest to you, right? And so I love that, guys.
Well, and I think it's originality is so fascinating to me because I worked for a while in the concert industry and working at venues, and it was always so funny to me. There's like this weird dichotomy in like performing between comedians and musicians, right? For comedians, nobody wants to hear something that they've heard before. And so every time you go out there, It's about telling things, telling jokes, telling punchlines that people have never heard before. When you're a musician, people only want to hear what they've heard before.
Yeah.
And so originality in music is so fascinating to me because it's like, no matter how many times you create something that is so totally unique to you, people just want to hear the chords and the progressions and the structures that make them move and dance and that feel familiar to them. And
Yes.
it's not that I don't think necessarily we go writing for, how can we appease everybody at once? But I think it's like if you're not creating something that people want to listen to and you are a person, then you're not creating something you want to listen to. And so it's originality is so funny to me because it's also like if you want to like reach an audience and touch an audience, the way that you do that is through your expression of shared experience. And so it's like, well, how original can you be when everybody, you're writing this song about a universal thing that like everybody goes through,
Right.
and 1,000 other musicians have written their take on it before. But that's the beautiful thing about music, right? Everybody can relate to being downtrodden and sad and not wanting to get out of bed. And everybody can relate to meeting a person that makes them feel like it's the first time they fell in love. And, it's like everybody can relate to those things. And if you're not talking about those things, you're not talking about being a person.
That's why every like 5 years a song gets released that's just "Where Is My Mind" but different because it sounds good.
Tell me a little bit about, so I've never gotten a good answer to this question. So if you feel like you're struggling but it's a question that I like to ask almost every person that I talk to. Why do you write songs? Where does that come from?
Man. I think there's two ways that I look at it. There's like the practical reasons we write songs, and then there's like the emotional reasons why we write songs, the like
Yes.
mental reasons why we write them. And I think the practical reason is almost easier to describe for us specifically. I think we write songs so that we stay connected, like as a band and as people.
Yeah.
I like that.
Like I said, like we grew up together, and Alex, our guitarist, we grew up with, and Ox, our bassist, we didn't necessarily grow up with. Ox is a little bit older than us, but we grew up actually, ironically, idolizing Ox's band.
Yes. Very heavily copying Ox's band.
Yeah.
And so we all have known each other for so long. And for Alex and Isaac and I, when we finished high school, it was right when we had started figuring out what our sort of
like really doing the band.
yeah, and like figuring out what our identity was, and we all parted ways. Like Isaac went to Oshkosh, I went to Milwaukee, Alex stayed in Wausau. And so we had this moment where we were like, we can either stop doing this band because it's going to be hard for us to find time to all get together, or we can write an album, get together, practice it, record it, and know that we'll see each other at least 2 to 3 times a month.
Yeah.
And so that's always, I think, been so essential to us, is like songwriting as a means to just not stop talking to each other.
Yeah. Because there was definitely a time where like we played our last show of the summer, the year after we graduated, and there was a second where it felt like, oh, is this going to be our last show as a band? And it kind of almost had that gravitas to it. There was a song that we had with a trumpet part where we busted out a big kazoo instead. It was lots of fun. And then what I like so much about it is that part of the reason that we stayed together, beyond just wanting to see each other still, is that like on a month by month basis, people would just keep asking us if we wanted to play shows.
That's
that
nice.
like yeah, it was great, and now we're here.
Yeah. And then I think too, the second half of that, the sort of more emotional side of like why we write music. I think music is such a strong way to process your own feelings and emotions, but also to stop feeling like your issues. And this is, I think, specific to the emo DIY scene, just knowing sort of the themes that sort of revolve around this space. It's such a cathartic and good way to stop feeling like you're the only one who is struggling with these things.
Yeah.
Because if you can write a song about it and put it out and people listen to it, and we've never really cared too much about like streams or sales or anything, but it's like if just like even if I just send it to my friends
Mm.
and a few of them are like, oh yeah, I really like this, it's because they again they can relate to it, and it's a shared experience. And I think like at the core of human connection is just understanding that your individual experiences are not so individualized. And it's not even like about like trauma bonding or anything like that. It's just that like you're a person,
Yeah.
and sometimes that can be really great, and sometimes it can really suck, and sometimes it can feel pretty neutral. And regardless of the factors that feed into that, everybody is feeling those same moments about themselves. And I think songwriting is storytelling, and storytelling will forever be the way that we feel connected to everybody else. So that's my take on it. Isaac just likes to hit the drums.
Yeah, I like playing the drums. I do think that like part of the reason, I don't know, and I don't want to sound braggadocious, but like part of the reason that our band writes songs together, I think, is because we've known each other for so long and know each other so well that like we kind of just know what the other wants. Like,
Yes.
Connor will send me a song and I'll be like, "Hey, are you okay?" And then I'll be like, "Also, I came up with the drum part for this, just so you know."
Yeah, I have a real strong memory of when I was writing the songs that ended up becoming the first half of our second LP, How We Dig in the Earth, and it's all the most intense songs I've ever written. It's like I'm literally like basically live songwriting my life and sending the demos like my voice memos immediately to the rest of the band. And all the guys are like, I have no idea how to help you other than write a sick ass bass part. like I have no, like, I'm here for you. You're clearly going through it. I love you so much. But also like Ryan, our bassist, immediately wrote and tracked a bass part like within an hour of me sending the song Hourglass. Being in a band is so beautiful because you end up taking these songs that you wrote because you absolutely went through a moment that you were like, I think I'm going to die. I think I'm going to die here. And then you end up sharing it communally. You go through a communal catharsis of 4 or 5 people in your band.
Mm.
And then you record it with a producer and they go through that whole catharsis with you. And then you put it out in the world and then you're able to go play live shows and you end up, it's such a strange thing where like 100 sweaty kids are yelling back the words of like, I thought I was going to die. And everyone's like, I've also thought I was going to die. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like, there's like an inherent vanity and there's like an inherent self-importance to releasing music, I think, that is like unavoidable, right? It's like this, like, why do you think people need to hear your take on this? And I think that is like, it's really tough to sort of like mentally get out of. But ultimately, I think like when I write lyrics for, for our music, it's so that like, obviously I want people to listen to it and I want people to connect with it, but it's mostly like the reason you record anything, the reason you take notes, the reason you like paint or like watercolor the room you're in, right? Is because that act of like documenting and recording allows you to stop being so unsure of how you were feeling and how you were experiencing these moments in time. And it's like that, it's just like a really advanced version of journaling, I think. Like, and it's, I don't know, I find it very cathartic, yes, but also just like, it's reassuring that I'm a person. And I think sometimes like it gets hard when when you work 60 hours in a week and you're just like sitting in bed and you're like, wow, all I did for the last, 7 days was get up, go to work, come home, shower, and go to sleep. It's like these little things are reminders that like you're still a human and you're still a person, and
Yes.
regardless of all of the workings that make you feel like you're not one.
Mm.
So I think I will always, I think songwriting is the most important thing that can and should happen in the world. All art creation, but songwriting just feels like such a perfect avenue.
Well, you mentioned a little bit of working class pain, and I think that's one of the things that I really resonate with in your lyrics, especially that I'd Say I'm Not Fine record is you're reflecting on the not fineness, not only of maybe your internal state, your own sense of anxiety and depression that is sort of like a feedback loop that sort of exists just with you, but you're also reflecting on I struggle to afford health insurance, and I am not sure that my bosses actually have my best interest at heart. I feel very much like a cog in a machine
Yeah.
where if I stopped showing up to work, maybe the care would be not primarily for me, but primarily about the work that creates for the, my coworkers, the rest of the team. And you're reflecting on all that. Tell me a little bit about sort of that intersection of whether you want to call it the personal and the systemic, or like all the sort of intersection of all the woes of like being alive right now, but do it in a way that's really light and entertaining so people don't get too super bummed out.
Yeah,
About it.
yeah. I mean, I think when you are a kid and you're growing up and you're seeing your parents struggle, or you're seeing, your like friends' parents struggle, it's really easy to just be like, oh, they're having a bad day. And maybe they just had a bad day, or maybe they're having a bad week or a bad month. When you become an adult and you have to exist within systems that did not make themselves super apparent to you until you were thrown out into the world and just had to figure it out, you start to realize that, like, unfortunately, every decision made by somebody who is not you impacts you on such a grand scale.
Yeah.
It is so difficult to exist as an individual outside of the systems that exist. It's this, you cannot exist outside of capitalism, right? If you're in a capitalist country, you can't really exist outside of it. You have to play to the norms of that. And it's heavy and it's weighty and it sucks. And I think that every person needs to, at some point in their life, genuinely take time to sit down and talk to your fellow persons, your neighbors, your coworkers, your friends, but also people that aren't your friends. And I'm not saying it's like a sit down and have like a therapy conversation with them, but just start to talk to people, because ultimately the only people that can look out for you are the people that surround you. And the only people you can look out for are the people that surround you. When we play shows, lately we've been finishing with our song Invading Space. It's a favorite of mine. And I always take the time before we play that song to mention to the crowd, to the room, that, like, for us, in an unspoken fashion that has become spoken over time, there are like three pillars that we really, really lean on, and that I think that we've allowed to sort of dictate who we want to be as human beings, right? And those three pillars are: nobody is free until we're all free, nobody is illegal anywhere, and your managers will never be your friends. Those are the three things. And I say it at every show because it's fact, right? Your manager, the person who controls your income, and the person who has to hold the interests of the company they work for, they can be kind to you. They can talk to you and have friendly conversation with you. They will not be your friend when they fire you because they have to make budget cuts. They will not be your friend when they fire you because you clocked in 15 minutes late because your babysitter canceled on you and now you have to figure out what to do with your kid. They will not be your friend when you did not get paid for the extra hour of work that you did, and they were just hoping you wouldn't notice. You cannot be friends with a system. You can only be friends with individuals, and management and ruling bodies are system. They are not individuals. And I feel that so firmly. That's not fun. That's not, it's not enjoyable. It's not entertaining. But it is such a universal truth that I think everybody needs to understand before they die. And I have found myself now at this point in my life, my full-time job is I'm a union rep, and I encourage every single person, regardless of industry or experience, to organize their workplace and look out for your fellow workers, because that is the only way that we will see systemic change, is if we start taking accountability for the people that clock in with us every single day. So that's my take.
I agree. I really like being Connor's hype man on this podcast.
Yo, that's dope.
Like,
what you just said was dope.
Yeah. I'm like the guy from the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones who dances.
That Isaac, I'm so glad that you said that, because that's one of my favorite like fun facts is, did you know that there was a full-fledged member of the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones who did not play an instrument or sing at all? His role in the band was 100% just to skank on stage. That's all he did.
And he got paid for that.
He got paid.
Yeah. That Ox, our bandmate, when they were young, they were in a lot of like ska bands and stuff. And there was a band that they kind of played like every instrument in over the course of this band's run. And at one point, their job was to dance on stage and like yell into the mic once in a while.
Yeah, the Ox guy,
Yes, exactly. I don't know if that's just like a ska staple or what.
Yeah.
Dude, I see it in weirdo Baroque pop indie bands. So, in the Sufjan Stevens era, there were always like 15 or 17 people on stage. There was a band, I don't know if you guys ever messed with them. They were called Anathalo. They were Pennsylvania, I think, based. And there were literally 8. It was like The World is a Beautiful Place, like level of band members, right? But I saw Anathalo play my Christian college in 2007 or 2008. And there was a person on the stage who just played auxiliary percussion the entire set. They would pull out a deck of cards and just like shink as like a there was like a waltz part, like a 3/4 waltz part, where the 1 was literally chains, and then the 2 was a deck of cards going shink, and then the 3 was a piece of Velcro being unvelcroed. And they did a shink, 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 shink. It was amazing. It's one of the best musical moments I've ever witnessed in my entire life.
Awesome.
Well, did you know that one of the guys from Anathalo went on to be part of the trio that made up Fun?
I did know that.
Really?
Yes. And
wild.
that person also did almost all of the horns on that Brother Sister Me Without You records too.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. It reminds me of when I saw Aggie at beautiful X-Ray Arcade here in Milwaukee, and there were nowhere near enough people at that show. By the way,
I saw Aggie at a coffee shop in Colorado Springs, and there were like 10 people there.
Yeah, and it was a small enough show that they did it on the floor instead of on the stage at X-Ray, which is a crazy experience for Aggie, because as I'm sure you experienced, there's a point where like they all just pull out books and start reading aloud from different books. And like my dad was there because he really likes Aggie. He didn't really know what was going on. I had strep throat. He bullied me into doing an apple pie shot with him. It was a crazy experience.
That's good. That was an appropriate amount of digression after Connor's really profound. You gotta give a little lightness with your.
That's
with your,
why
like,
I'm here. I'm the penny on the track.
He's the comic relief.
Yeah.
The guy in the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones and dances. We're back to 1.
Yeah. Right. Well, we've talked a little bit about some of the struggles of just being alive in our crazy postmodern times, but I want to ask a little about some of the struggles that you all face being in a band. What's the hardest part about being in a band right now for you all?
It feels like right now, and I say it feels like, it factually is probably the worst time to be a musician in the history of music. And it is exclusively due to the damage to the music industry that streaming has caused. For the first time ever, played out west with Mags, as we had talked about last October. And I can't even tell you the amount of times that we played shows and kids would come up and talk to us afterwards and be like, you guys are so great. Can I find your music on Spotify? As they're like looking at our table where we have vinyl and CDs and cassettes. And I'm like, like holding back tears, just like, yes, you can find us on Spotify. The access that people have to music and the collectorization of physical media has just made it so hard to financially support being a band. I am not a marketing-minded person. I don't think anybody in our band really is.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's just a time in the overall arc of being a musician where you have to be a master marketer if you want people to care about your music. And it's just so hard because you spend so much time devoting so much energy to creating art, and then you have to sit down and go, how do I make this hour-long album that I created into 15-second TikToks that are funny so that people will like them? And it's like, I just don't know. I don't know.
Can you imagine trying to make our song funny?
Yeah.
It's like, it's so tough because it's just like, yeah, it no longer feels like you can just be an artist. You have to be a marketeer. I hear so often from people who are just trying to make it in the music industry that like labels are like, you don't have enough followers, so we can't sign you. Yeah, your album's great. You don't have enough followers. Sorry. And it's like, that sucks. And it's cool to see. Sometimes you see, like, I always think about, I think about this with Heart Attack Man, where it was like, that was just great people with great music who also had a great mind for how to make people laugh, and that drew eyes to them. Yeah. I remember being like, I had never heard Heart Attack Man, and then I just saw a video of, it was like on Twitter, of him just like impersonating a sound check, and he was like, give me drums, doom, 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 and people were like, this is the funniest thing ever. Yeah. And also, I'm going to listen to your music. Right. And then they were able to like turn it into a career. And that's awesome. But it just feels like, yeah, if you don't have that switch in your brain, you just like, it's unsustainable. And it feels, and look, record labels are, I think there are people who think record labels are intrinsically bad. I do not. I think record labels have value, and I think they are good. I think where it has gotten not great is that there was a time in which it was on the label to figure out how to market you. Now you have to figure out how to market yourself so that the label will even consider allowing you to market yourself on their platform.
Right.
And that's ridiculous.
I actually do have a different answer from Connors this time.
Go for it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I know.
Look at you.
Speaking up. Speaking up. And this one, this is probably a little more specific to our band rather than the industry as a whole, but it's connected because, like, we started when we were very young. When we first started touring, we were all like in college. So it was like, hey, our spring breaks line up, or like, we have 2 months off for winter break. Let's go on tour. And then the pandemic happened and like shut us pretty well down for a while. And now it is so difficult to be 4 adults with jobs trying to line up like 3 days that we could go out to Ohio. Going back to what you said about how hard it is to be a working musician, like the fact that I have to work a talk radio job and you have to do your union rep thing, not just for the love of the game, and Alex is frying chicken or whatever they do. Like it's It really does. Like, I wish that the music could be enough.
Well, and also, I want to say that it's a very specifically an American issue, but there are places that have figured this out.
Yeah.
There are places that have figured out how to subsidize artists and allow artists,
Canada.
places that offer basic income to people who are artists to allow them to pursue art while also being able to like pay their energy bill.
Yeah.
And so it just feels so disheartening to exist in a space where you have to either come from an incredibly privileged background or find a time in your life where you can take 2 years to either make your career or absolutely break your back and never have the ability to like afford a house. It really feels like that, right? It's like you either wager everything on the future and it works or it doesn't, or you come from a position and more power to you if you do come from that position, but you come from a position in life where it's not a gamble, it's just a elongation of your time being cared for by your parents, right?
Yeah.
I don't think there should be more power to them. Less power to the
People can't control the circumstances with which they were raised.
Yes.
They
You
can only choose
Yes.
how
Yeah.
they use that, right?
Right.
And some people, there are people, I think Rosie Tucker is a great example of this, right?
Mhm.
I think Rosie Tucker will go down as one of the greatest singer-songwriters of our generation. They are an incredibly talented musician. And in their bio on Spotify, on all streaming services, they disclose, I am a recipient of a trust fund, and because of that, I am able to dedicate my life to music.
Yes.
That is, it's not something that you should feel bad about, but it's something that so many people don't have access to. And because of that, it is incredibly hard for so many to gamble on their future and gamble on themselves.
Yeah.
Which is just so unfortunate because I really do think it leads to the dissolving of such talent-rich collectives that could be making meaningful change with their art if they had just had the ability to afford a few more years. And so I think that's what's so tough. It's like you have to budget your life around being an artist. And I mean your life, not just your short term. You have to budget your long term. Am I able to take out this much debt to be able to play music for a couple years?
Yeah, like there's probably like a greatest song ever written that was never recorded because the person couldn't take a week off of work.
My wife's dad, Raymond, passed away when Kate was 10 years old. So I obviously never knew him. I never got to meet him, but every Christmas we go out and we hang out with Ray's sister and brother, and we hear stories about this dude. And it's been really cool to like over the long haul of knowing and loving my wife, Kate, to like get to know her dad just by stories.
Sure.
And dude, he had some demo tapes of his rock band that one of the siblings transferred to CD. And so one Christmas, I get this burned CD in a car and I'm listening to Kate's dad's band from the 90s. Like early 90s, but before like Pearl Jam grunge. I'm like, this dude is good. He wrote an unpublished novel that Kate has a manuscript of that she's bound in like a book. And just reading through it, he's like the funniest, like wry Kurt Vonnegut sort of like, and just he worked a construction job. And they lived on a mobile home on a piece of farmland in California. They were poor enough that if they wanted vegetables, like he had to plant the vegetables and grow them. And so I have two thoughts in response to this reflection. One is, yes, I'm absolutely with you. What songs were lost to the world because Ray Leonardo had to work a day job and provide for his 3 girls? But also that act of songwriting and being in a band with his buddies and his brother and writing an unpublished novel, that was just a human way to be. So in fact, like Ray was more human than he could have been if he had just sort of let the discouragement of I'll never be famous or I'll never make money doing music or art or whatever by just doing it. But there's definitely from here, and it's like there was a sadness, a frustration that it sort of just his art existed in a very obscure sort of way, even though the man was good.
Yeah.
So I think it's a bummer, but also there's something that thinks that it's messed up that we have in our society sort of equated if you're good at something, then you should make money doing it in order to continue doing it. And if you don't make money doing it, then you should probably quit doing it because either from a sort of you get Stockholm syndrome of the system that we're in and you're just like, well, I got to be maximizing my days and I want to be making that cheddar cheese, or you get maybe you're sort of feeling like you're at the bottom and you get discouraged and you're like, well, I just don't have time for this. I just got to go, I got to work 60 hours this week or whatever, like we're talking about. So I get you, but I'm also like, can we create, and this is stupid. This is one of the reasons why we called it Holy Fool in the first place. Is that like anybody who tries to put pen to paper and write poetry or do music or write prose or what make up stories, make up songs, whatever you're doing, you're a dummy from the world's perspective. Like you're a dum-dum in order to want to do that. But it's also one of the most sacred pursuits that you can take on to not only for yourself, but just even for your community. Think about rewind 200, 300 years before recorded music. Music just existed when you got together with your buds to make it. You would just play guitar and banjo and piano or whatever, right?
I would 100% agree with you. The act of creating art in and of itself does not need to be a commodity. But I think where it gets tricky, right? I've always said like my goal with music has never been to like be a huge, multi-million dollar investment to a record label, right? My goal with music has always been to make the art I want to make and be able to still live a life while doing it. And I think where it gets so tricky is when your pursuit of art, the creation of it, the sharing of it, be it in a large radius or a small one, is a decision you have to make against paying your bills or against the financial stability of the person you love, right?
Yeah.
So that's where it's so tricky, is because it's like I don't think there should be a world, there is one right now. I don't think there should be a world where musicians are billionaires with private jets that they lease out to their friends, right? I don't think that world should exist. I don't think billionaires should exist, but I don't think that world should exist where specific people can just monopolize the music industry in such a fashion, right? I think that sucks. But I do think there should be a world in which artists are valued enough to say, if you want to pursue art for a living, you should not intrinsically have to worry about how you're going to pay your rent.
Yeah.
And I think that is the crucial part of it, because while creating art in and of itself is not necessarily a billable task, right? There is cost to playing shows, and there's cost to driving across the country, and there's costs baked into being an artist that are semi unavoidable. And so if you can't even cover those costs, like when you go and you play a show and the venue took a merch cut, and then they also decided that you didn't sell enough tickets to meet their minimum fee, and so you're not getting paid any from door, and now you have $20, but it's going to cost you $60 to get to your next show.
Yes.
Well,
that sucks.
And they also told you that they would give you food from the kitchen, but then actually, since no one came, you also have to pay for that grilled cheese that you got earlier.
Yeah, this didn't really happen to you, did it?
But that's what sucks, and that's what is so tough, is that like music is supposed to be a communal art form, has been since the dawn of time, and when there are costs associated with that communal sharing, there should be a sense of, well, then we need to support that and mitigate those costs for these people. And that's where, going back to streaming industry, I think the streaming industry has really destroyed the artist's ability to cover costs, because there is now an unwritten, unspoken understanding and agreement that in order to make your music accessible, you have agreed that your music is not valuable and that your art is not valuable. And it's just tough. I'm going to give like a very specific example. And this is just because it's on my mind, right? We are putting out a split on February 6th with another Milwaukee band called Known Moons. And I'm so unbelievably proud of this split. I am so unbelievably excited that we got to work with such talented artists in Known Moons and package Milwaukee art together.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. We were talking about the physical release of it, right? And we're doing cassette tapes.
Yes.
And we were talking about variants. Andy from Known Moons was like, well, I really like this one. And I was like, oh, I really like this one. And Andy was like, well, what if you do the casing that you want and we do the shell that we want? And I thought about it for a second, and I was like, it sucks that right now I'm thinking about, what if people like our shell more than yours, and then they buy ours and not yours?
Yes.
Because that's what physical media has become. It's a collectible, right?
Yeah.
I hear from so many people, oh, I don't own a record player. I just buy records because I think they're pretty. Like, I just think that the variants are cool. And that's great, you know? It's a way that you can support your artists. But when you have to, again, market yourself and market your merchandise by having it be this cool combination of colors rather than a piece of media that you can enjoy our music on, and then somebody just decides that they don't like the color, so therefore your art is not of value because they'll just go stream it instead, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, I am a marketeer and I'm a hawker of goods.
Yeah.
I am not an artist. I can't
a traveling t-shirt company. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So part of the reason why we exist as an organization is simultaneously live in the world as it should be. We dream together a dream of what a more fair, kind, just and equitable world could be, not only for musicians, but for just all of us. It's like, I think about, as we're talking, I think about anybody who tries to do helping work, teachers, social workers, you name it. Let's make sure that you're not also destroying your life to try to teach kids how to learn how to read and whatever else, right? We also have to live in the world as it is. And this is a real big tension. So we can dream the big dream together to maybe create that in the next generation if we're lucky and organized. But what can we do in the here and now, in the world of streaming and touring logistics? What could a community of fans, maybe I'm a day job worker, I'm a music person, I like DIY bands, I'm the core demographic for A Place for Owls and Barely Civil, right? Like, I want to be into the cool, hip DIY and emo bands. What could a person like that do to tangibly support you and your band in the work that you're trying to do?
There's a few things that are incredibly important. And this maybe doesn't seem like a direct impact, but it is so much of a direct impact. Support your local independent music venues. Go to those places, give them your money, go to shows there, because if those independent music venues do not exist, small artists do not have any chance of making money. We see it right with Live Nation creating contracts with artists that say, you play our venues and here's money for it. That works for those big artists, but it shuts down your local independent venue, and then that is one less place that a small touring act can come to and maybe get $100 at the door, because this place isn't taking a huge cut as opposed to these conglomerate venues. Supporting your local music venues is so incredibly important. Buy a t-shirt, buy physical media in any chance that you can, if you have the financial ability to do so. I always, as a musician, but also as like a salesperson for the merchandise that our band creates, I try and do my best to be as flexible and lenient on like, hey, this person wants a t-shirt, but they only have $5 on them. Yeah, $5 is great. Like that helps so much.
Yeah.
If you feel like you really connect with an artist and you really connect with what they're doing, share it with your friends. Talk about it with your friends. I don't think that exposure is a metric for success, but if you tell your friend and your friend tells their friend and they talk about that music, then the next time I come to your city, there's 2 more people there.
Right.
And that's the difference between me not eating that night or getting a meal, right? So it's just so crucial. Again, music, art is supposed to be a communal experience. We would not have ended up as a band together if Isaac didn't just love talking and sharing music with us, like talking about and sharing music with us. Because every time Isaac found a band that he liked, he was like, everybody has to stop what they're doing and listen to this band.
Yes, God's work. Doing God's work.
Yeah,
that's why Ox is in Barely Civil.
Yeah, that's why Ox is.
I think I single-handedly kept From Indian Lakes on the road for like 3 years. That is so important. Like, just never shutting up about the bands you like. I mean, I'll text you about bands at 1 in the morning.
Well, it's also more fun to share a thing communally, especially one of the things that if you're into alternative music or emo music or independent bands or whatever, it's not the same experience as like going to a Taylor Swift concert where everybody knows, it's kind of more mainstream. You often feel a little bit like a weirdo because I like bands that are, it's not coworker music or whatever. Telling your buddies about music that you like also means that they can get into those bands and you're going to have a great night when that band comes to your city, and it's going to be a top tier memory. I mean, I think about, we both really like the band Cara Cara. I think about the first time that I saw Cara Cara in Denver, Colorado, and there were like 3 of my buddies there, and we were all slam dancing to Better, such a beautiful experience from even like, I wasn't even thinking necessarily about like, I'm being altruistic and making a touring band's life better. I was just like, I'm having a hell of a time tonight. This is amazing, right?
I do think visibly having a good time at a show is a great way to like brighten a band's, like using Cara Cara as an example. The one time we've ever actually played a show with them, it was, in Milwaukee here, and we were on the bill, and then I think both of the other bands that were on the bill were also, like, huge fans of Cara Cara, and there was a good crowd, but I know personally, like, 3 or 5 of the people in attendance were also, like, mega fans.
Yes.
So, like, all of those people were singing along, and I remember Will saying, like, it's really weird to be smiling while you're singing a song called Evil. I love what's happening right now. Just being like visibly very into an artist can absolutely keep someone going when, you're playing at a venue where you have to load in at 9 p.m. and you get paid in 1 bean and cheese burrito.
Well, I think, Isaac, you being the enthusiast and the encourager that you are and the evangelist for other good music is so essential. And we all need friends like you. I try to be like you in that way too. And so I think that if there's anybody listening to this who's like, what can I do to help out bands? Like, just be stoked. Just be an enthusiast about it. Even if it ultimately in the long run maybe will result in a living wage for musicians. But in the short term, it'll just mean that you're having a great time. Your buddies are having a great time. The band is having a better evening.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. So what would you all like to promote? What do you have coming up, either release-wise or show-wise, that you would like people to pay attention to?
Yeah, the big thing is that February 6th, our split is out in the world with Known Moons. The split is called Barely Known. It's 2 never-before-released songs from each band. It is such a love letter to the amazing artists that exist here in Milwaukee. It is, I think, 2 artists sort of in their prime doing their thing the best they can. These songs mean a lot to us. Both like our songs and the Known Moon songs mean so much to us. That's the big thing. It's available everywhere. You can stream it. I know I said a lot about streaming.
Buy the
but you
cassette
can
though.
stream it.
Yeah,
Buy
you
the
could also
cassette
But the
buy
tape.
the
cassette is
cassette if you
available. We're
want.
shipping it out all across the country. So
Yeah.
if you want one, get them while they're hot.
I do like to do a question towards the end of what are you listening to recently that you're super excited on? What, any 1 or 2 albums or EPs that you're just wearing out recently?
There's a band from Milwaukee here called Frantic Repair. They played our split release show. They're just a like young emo sort of shoegaze, sort of screamo band
Nice.
that I think they're like 18, 19. I really wish that it was what we had sounded like when we were like their age. I love that emo bands now, a lot of them are really into like Braid
Yeah.
and like 90s emo like that.
Tell me the name again.
Frantic Repair. They just put out an EP called Gray Hour.
I'm gonna step in with another Milwaukee recommendation.
Oh boy.
In Shining Armor.
Oh yes.
They are half of another fantastic Milwaukee band called Bug Moment.
I know Bug Moment.
In Shining Armor, they're putting out some of the best music I think I've ever heard in my life.
So
they're incredible.
beyond that, shout out to The World is a Beautiful Place and I Am No Longer Afraid to Die.
Yes.
Shout out to Future Teens.
Yes.
Shout out to Kara Kara. Also, Hard Chiller. If you haven't listened to Hard Chiller.
Oh baby.
Yeah.
Oh baby.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw in my 2 cents because I have been legitimately wearing their latest album out. Spanish Love Songs is one of the best bands I've ever listened to, and I cannot wait for whatever they have coming out.
Also, Stay Inside.
Yeah.
To me, Barely Civil, A Place for Owls, Kara Kara, and Stay Inside exist on like a, not like a political compass, but like a framework of
A 2
like
by 2. Yeah.
like a weird loud to not weird soft quadrant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that Stay
Longer.
Inside record, Longer. It's
Spaghetti note.
incredible. Perfect top
Dude.
to bottom.
Yeah.
It's got a skit in it.
Yeah.
So it was so disorienting because the most recent record, there were literal times where I'm like, wait, is this a joke? What's happening? What's going on? Wait.
They're so willing to sound gross in like the best way. I love it.
It's so weird because if the Beatles can make Yellow Submarine and
Right,
Rocky
yeah.
Raccoon and just like have a little fun with it, and we still think about them as like the, arguably the greatest, pop rock band of all time. It's like, why don't we let bands have a little fun? Like, why don't we let bands just like be a little loose with it? But I love that band, Stay Inside Forever. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to sign us off. This has been beautiful. Any final thoughts?
I'll finish this with what I finish all our sets with. No one is free until we are all free. No one is illegal on any land, and your managers are never your friends. Organize your workforce.
You have been listening to the Holy Fool podcast. Holy Fool is a nonprofit community based in Denver, Colorado, committed to supporting working musicians, especially working musicians who struggle financially. We do that through relational support. We share best practices and good ideas. We have a gear share program. We also give out micro grants to artists who need a few $100 to buy some new gear or defer the cost of recording or fix that tour van that broke down in the middle of Wichita. So thank you so much for listening. Our guests today on the Holy Fool podcast have been Connor and Isaac from Milwaukee emo band Barely Civil. Connor, Isaac, thank you for being with us tonight. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Pleasure was ours.
All right, we'll see you guys later.